before I came to work. It's been 53 days in a row now. Um, and I will go ahead and also share with you guys really quickly since I'm going to be off in like 2 minutes. Um, as far as time management goes, since I'm just going to just jump straight to there, I see it more like task management. Because the way I see it is we have 24 hours a day, 168 hours a week that we all have, no matter what. And now it's a matter of what are my tasks that I'm going to do to fit it in. Because when people say things like, I don't have time to work out, it's like, no, you just haven't assessed your day or your week. There was a story that I posted on my Instagram that I said, we have 168 hours a week, and if we sleep roughly a third of that, then we have like 112 left over. Even if you work a 40-hour week, that still leaves you 72 hours in the week left over. Now what? You know, that's 72 hours. I said I spend 7 of those hours for me working out, 1 hour a day. So, and then that's what I've been doing with the business activity tracker with hitting all the boxes. This week, I'm doing 8 boxes a day. So I see it more as, think of all the tasks that we need to get done to accomplish our goal, and then fit that into your day, fit that into your time kind of thing. So, not saying that the time management things and the skills don't work. I'm just saying I feel like more what are the tasks first and then fit it in the day because the day is always a given 24 hours. So that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely, yeah. It comes down to prioritization, right? It's
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
all have the same amount of time, and it's what we decide to do with our free time, right? Makes a difference, right? It
exactly. I
determines
mean, like,
whether, yeah,
yeah, I was just gonna say really quick, like within my on my 10-minute breaks, this week, I've been finding that time to sit because when I do my stories, when I post a photo of Shakeology or Energize or whatever, or a workout clip, I don't do that until my 10-minute breaks because I'm really early in the morning. I work out, shower, come to work, and then I don't have that time. But then I say, okay, 10-minute break, post, 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 and then I use my breaks at work. So utilizing that time instead of saying, oh, this is 10 minutes I can rest from all this, running around moving cabinets. No, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, work on the business for 10 minutes. So,
mhm,
10 minutes here, half an hour at lunch, just little bits of will really add up. And that's how it's been helping me. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, I've got before we go too much into talking about time management, I have a TED Talk that I found, which I think is really good. And Chris kind of, just kind of highlighted some of the things that they talk about.
oh,
So,
sorry.
so that's good. Get a little preview. So let me share that with you guys. It's like 11, 12 minutes. Let's see. Full screen. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Huh?
All right.
When people find out I write about time management, they assume 2 things. One is that I'm always on time, and I'm not. I have 4 small children, and I would like to blame them for my occasional tardiness, but sometimes it's just not their fault. I was once late to my own speech on time management. We all had to just take a moment together and savor that irony. The second thing they assume is that I have lots of tips and tricks for saving bits of time here and there. And sometimes I'll hear from magazines that are doing a story along these lines, generally on how to help their readers find an extra hour in the day. And the idea is that we'll shave bits of time off everyday activities, add it up, and we'll have time for the good stuff. And I question the entire premise of this piece, but I'm always interested in hearing what they've come up with before they call me. So some of my favorites: doing errands in a way where you only have to make right-hand turns, being extremely judicious in microwave usage. So it says 3 to 3.5 minutes on the package. We are totally getting in on the bottom side of that. And my personal favorite, which makes sense on some level, is to DVR your favorite shows so you can fast forward through the commercials. And that way you save about 8 minutes every half hour. So in the course of 2 hours of watching TV, you find 32 minutes to exercise, which is true. You know another way to find 32 minutes to exercise? Don't watch 2 hours of TV a day, right? Anyway, the idea is we'll save bits of time here and there, add it up, we will finally get to everything we want to do. But after studying how successful people spend their time and looking at their schedules hour by hour, I think this idea has it completely backward. We don't build the lives we want by saving time. We build the lives we want, and then time saves itself. Here's what I mean. I recently did a time diary project looking at 1,001 days in the lives of extremely busy women. They had demanding jobs, sometimes their own businesses, kids to care for, maybe parents to care for, community commitments, busy, busy people. I had them keep track of their time for a week so I could add up how much they worked and slept. And I interviewed them about their strategies for my book. One of the women whose time log I studied, she goes out for a Wednesday night for something. She comes home to find that her water heater has broken. And there is now water all over her basement. If you've ever had anything like this happen to you, you know it is a hugely damaging, frightening, sopping mess. So she's dealing with the immediate aftermath that night. Next day, she's got plumbers coming in. Day after that, professional cleaning crew dealing with the ruined carpet. All this is being recorded on her time log. Winds up taking 7 hours of her week. 7 hours. That's like finding an extra hour in the day. But I'm sure if you had asked her at the start of the week, could you find 7 hours to train for a triathlon? Could you find 7 hours to mentor 7 worthy people? I'm sure she would have said what most of us would have said, which is no. Can't you see how busy I am? Yet when she had to find 7 hours because there is water all over her basement, she found 7 hours. And what this shows us is that time is highly elastic. We cannot make more time, but time will stretch to accommodate what we choose to put into it. And so the key to time management is treating our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater. And to get at this, I like to use some language from one of the busiest people I ever interviewed. By busy, I mean she was running a small business with 12 people on the payroll. She had 6 children in her spare time. I was getting in touch with her to set up an interview on how she had it all, that phrase. I remember it was a Thursday morning and she was not available to speak with me, of course, right? But the reason she was unavailable to speak with me is that she was out for a hike because it was a beautiful spring morning and she wanted to go for a hike. So of course, this makes me even more intrigued. And when I finally do catch up with her, she explains it like this. She says, listen, Laura, everything I do, every minute I spend is my choice. And rather than say, I don't have time to do X, Y, or Z, she'd say, I don't do X, Y, or Z because it's not a priority. I don't have time often means it's not a priority. If you think about it, that's really more accurate language. I mean, I could tell you I don't have time to dust my blinds, but that's not true. If you offered to pay me $100,000 to go dust my blinds, I would get to it pretty quickly. Since that is not going to happen, I can acknowledge this is not a matter of lacking time. It's that I don't want to do it. Using this language reminds us that time is a choice. And granted, there may be horrible consequences for making different choices. I will give you that. But we are smart people, and certainly over the long run, we have the power to fill our lives with the things that deserve to be there. So how do we do that? How do we treat our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater? Well, first we need to figure out what they are. And I want to give you 2 strategies for thinking about this. The first, on the professional side, I'm sure many people coming up to the end of the year are giving or getting annual performance reviews. You look back over your successes over the year, your opportunities for growth, and this serves its purpose, but I find it's more effective to do this looking forward. So I want you to pretend it's the end of next year. You're giving yourself a performance review, and it has been an absolutely amazing year for you professionally. What 3 to 5 things did you do that made it so amazing? So you can write next year's performance review now. And you can do this for your personal life too. I'm sure many of you, like me, come December, get cards that contain these folded up sheets of colored paper, on which is written what is known as the family holiday letter. Bit of a wretched genre of literature, really, going on about how amazing everyone in the household is, or even more scintillating, how busy everyone in the household is. But these letters serve a purpose, which is that they tell your friends and family what you did in your personal life that mattered to you over the course of the year. So this year's kind of done, but I want you to pretend it's the end of next year. And it has been an absolutely amazing year for you and the people you care about. What 3 to 5 things did you do that made it so amazing? So you can write next year's family holiday letter now. Don't send it. Please, don't send it. But you can write it. And now between the performance review and the family holiday letter, we have a list of 6 to 10 goals we can work on in the next year. And now we need to break these down into doable steps. So maybe you want to write a family history. Well, first you can read some other family histories, get a sense for the style. And then maybe think about the questions you want to ask your relatives, set up appointments to interview them. Or maybe you want to run a 5K. So you need to find a race and sign up and figure out a training plan and dig those shoes out of the back of the closet. And then, this is key, we treat our priorities as the equivalent of that broken water heater by putting them into our schedules first. And we do this by thinking through our weeks before we are in them. I find a really good time to do this is Friday afternoons. Friday afternoon is what an economist might call a low opportunity cost time. Most of us are not sitting there on Friday afternoon saying, I am excited to make progress toward my personal and professional priorities right now. But we are willing to think about what those should be. So take a little bit of time Friday afternoon, make yourself a 3-category priority list: career, relationships, self. Making a 3-category list reminds us that there should be something in all 3 categories. Career, we think about; relationships, self, not so much. But anyway, just a short list, 2 to 3 items in each. Then look out over the whole of the next week and see where you can plan them in. Where you plan them in is up to you. And I know this is going to be more complicated for some people than others. I mean, some people's lives are just harder than others. It is not going to be easy to find time to take that poetry class if you are caring for multiple children on your own. I get that. And I don't want to minimize anyone's struggle. But I do think that the numbers I am about to tell you are empowering. There are 168 hours in a week. 24 times 7 is 168 hours. That is a lot of time. If you are working a full-time job, so 40 hours a week, sleeping 8 hours a night, so 56 hours a week, that leaves 72 hours for other things. That is a lot of time. You say you're working 50 hours a week, maybe a main job and a side hustle. Well, that leaves 62 hours for other things. You say you're working 60 hours. Well, that leaves 52 hours for other things. You say you're working more than 60 hours. Well, are you sure? There was once a study comparing people's estimated work weeks with time diaries, found that people claiming 75+ hour work weeks were off by about 25 hours. You can guess in which direction, right? Anyway, in 168 hours a week, I think we can find time for what matters to you. If you want to spend more time with your kids, you want to study more for a test you're taking, you want to exercise for 3 hours and volunteer for 2, you can. And that's even if you're working way more than full-time hours. So we have plenty of time, which is great, because guess what? We don't even need that much time to do amazing things. But when most of us have bits of time, what do? Pull out the phone, right? Start deleting emails, or otherwise we're puttering around the house or watching TV. But small moments can have great power. You can use your bits of time for bits of joy. Maybe it's choosing to read something wonderful on the bus on the way to work. I know when I had a job that required 2 bus rides and a subway ride every morning, I used to go to the library on weekends to get stuff to read. Made the whole experience almost enjoyable. Breaks at work can be used for meditating or praying. If family dinner is out because of your crazy work schedule, maybe family breakfast could be a good substitute. It's about looking at the whole of one's time and seeing where the good stuff can go. I truly believe this. There is time. Even if we are busy, we have time for what matters. And when we focus on what matters, we can build the lives we want in the time we've got. Thank you.
That was good.
Yeah. Hey, Sherry and Kevin.
Hello. And my cat Dakota.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep her butt out of the camera. Sorry.
Well, that-
Hello.
Hi, Kev. Hi,
Hi, Sherry.
everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. So my tank top today is fitting because it was shoulder day. So it says, work my traps. You mean pet more cats? So I got to work my traps and pet cats today.
I was gonna say we'll see Tom's cat's butt here soon.
Well,
actually
yeah, mine's
behind the
upside
computer
down
today.
right now in my lap.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Tom.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, that was a
Cool.
great TED talk. Thank you for sharing that, Greg. Or was it Greg or Tom?
Greg.
That's me. So yeah, what were your guys' takeaways there?
That saying we don't have time or excuses.
Yeah.
We really don't want to. I have no problem telling people I don't want to. So
Yeah, it comes down to priorities, right? It's like you said, we all have whatever 168 hours, right? I mean, and even if you're working 60 hours a week, you still have 52 hours or something like that, right? I mean, 52 hours, that's a free time, right? But it's like that's why people tell me that, oh, I don't have time for coaching. Oh, bullshit. You got time for coaching. I mean, we say it takes an hour a day, right? You can't tell me you don't have time. It's you don't have the priority for it, right? So it's just whatever you got priorities for, right? And if your priorities are your kids or whatever, right? And you want to spend, your 52 hours with your kids, great. That's your priority. That's your goal that's your only, goal for your life is to spend that time with your kids. Great. You're hitting it. Go get it, but, if you have other goals, like hopefully all of us do, that's the reason you're on the call, right? Is like, you want to build a business, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to help more people, whatever, right? Well, then we've got to learn how to prioritize and how to use our calendar effectively, right? I think Chris kind of touched on it. It's the difference between, she did too, right? It's the difference between not enough time, right? That excuse, like Sherry said, and prioritizing your time and using your time effectively. That's the second way, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, those are two different topics, and one that I like some of her examples, like, yeah, I'm gonna the package on the microwave, right, says 3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna shave that 2 minutes and go for the 3 or whatever, or fast forwarding through commercials. Yep, I do that definitely, right? But yeah, I mean, that's just using your free time more efficiently, but it still comes down to priority, right? It's like, when I started this business, I had to reprioritize. There was, and I told this before, I was big into video games, and played them, had my own group. I had my own website. I had my own servers. I had everything. Had about 160 guys in my clan, right? Well, I didn't have time for that anymore, right? It's like I was looking at, okay, I'm spending all this free time playing video games, like competitively, those shooter games, right? And I wasn't making any money at that, right? I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't. When I decided that I was going to build this business, right? When I decided that I had a goal, that it no longer became a priority for me. So I gave it all up, right? That was one of the things that I gave up, and I haven't done video games at all since. It was just one of those things. I just went, boom, done. And you know, you just have to decide what is the thing that is a higher priority for you that is not fulfilling your goals, right? Is it watching Netflix? Is it you know, I don't know. You name whatever it is, right? That you're spending a lot of your time on, a lot of your free time, where you could be spending it on achieving your goals, right? And then you got to really decide, like, you know, she talked about like the three buckets, like personal, relationship, and professional or career, right? So I mean, professional could be your job, or it could be your side hustle, your business, whatever, right? But you got to put your goals, right? You got to have goals in each one. And something else that I heard, because I was last night I was going through a whole bunch of the different time management ones. You would be surprised how many time management TED Talks there are. I mean, literally there are hundreds, you know. And I just looked at the ones that had watches, views in the millions. And one guy, he talked about, is anybody procrastinator? I'm not a procrastinator, so I don't really understand this. I mean, I understand the way he explained it, but is anybody here a procrastinator?
I'll let you know later.
Okay. So my
It
wife,
depends on what it is. If it's something I want to do, no.
right. My wife is a procrastinator. I mean, she'll wait until the last minute to do anything, you know, and I'm the complete opposite. I want to get it done. If it's important, if I think it's important, I want to get it done as soon as possible. You know, it's like, you know, in college, if I had a paper to write, I would, you know, get it done, right? Or even at work, if I had a deadline that was due, I wanted to be done a week or whatever before the deadline, you know. I mean, I don't think it was so much that I was like an overachiever. I want to be an overachiever. It's not that. It's that I feel the pressure and the anxiety of having that due. Therefore, I want to get it off my plate. You know, that's more. And then I also want to get the satisfaction of checking the box that done, right? And but this guy on the other TED Talk I saw, he said he was a chronic procrastinator. Never has changed. He said in college he had to write a thesis, which was supposed to take a year. And he said that he planned it out, that he was going to work on it so much a month. And then it comes down to the last week before it's due, and he hasn't written a word. Actually, the last 3 days. It's due in 3 days. He hasn't written a word of his thesis. So he pulls 2 all-nighters and works on it for, you know, 3 days straight, turns it in, and he said they called him in to the office and they said, it's the best paper that we've ever seen. And then everybody's like, and he's like, I'm just kidding. No, but he really did do it in 3 days, but it wasn't the best paper they've ever seen. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. But he said that with a procrastinator, people who procrastinate, he said that they get things done because there's something. Well, the reason that they procrastinate is because there's this monkey, this fun monkey that lives in their brain that tells that is constantly like pulling them into something else other than what they should be doing, right? It's like, you know, it's like he said that even when he was asked to speak at the TED Talk, you know, he's like, yeah, I need to get on that, right? But then he decided to like start at the bottom of India on Google Maps and scroll up to get an overview of India for 2.5 hours, right? So it's like this fun monkey that's always pulling you into something else that's more, like Sherry said, that's more fun that you want to do, right? You don't want to do the work part. But he said that the reason that the procrastinators do get the task done is because there's this panic monkey that comes in. No, it's a panic monster. That's what it was. And the fun monkey is afraid of the panic monster. So the panic monster hits, right, 3 days before it's due or whatever. And then that forces, you know, the fun monkey to run and hide, and then the rational person can take over and get the task done. But the interesting thing that he said in conclusion is the reason that most people aren't successful at especially procrastinators aren't successful at their long-term goals, right? Or their, you know, maybe their entrepreneur things, is because there is no deadline. And that's the problem, right? If there's a deadline, then you got the panic monster and then you're going to get it done, right? But if you're signing up for this coaching, you know, business, there's no deadline, right? There's never a panic monster. And therefore it never becomes a priority for you, and you never, you know, become successful at it, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that could be, you know, what goes on with a lot of people that have the issue with procrastination, right? And the way to get over that is to set yourself, set your goals, make it a priority, and maybe set yourself, you know, arbitrary deadlines of, I've got to, you know, do that. I've got to hit this goal or this thing. And if I don't, there's consequences, right? It's like we talked about the carrot and the stick, right? How you could set a goal and you could make a carrot for yourself, right? If you hit that goal, you're going to get this, right? But if you don't hit that goal, there's a consequence, right? It's like, you know, whatever, right? It's like, I can't watch Netflix, you know, if I don't hit that goal. If I don't work out, like Chris says, right? If I don't work out, I can't watch Netflix today, right? Or whatever, you know, there could be a consequence. And therefore it's like, oh, I got to get it done, right? So, I mean, just, you know, think about something like that. But I thought it was interesting how she said, you know, write your performance review. Like, think about that, right? Write your performance review for this year, or write your holiday letter for this year, right? What would you write in December, right? What would your performance review be? Or what would your holiday review be to your relatives? Or, you know, what do you want to accomplish, right? I guess the holiday letter would be like your personal goals. What do you want to accomplish this year? What do you want to do this year with your relationship or with your personal, right? And then think about, like, obviously with coaching, like, what do you want to accomplish this year with coaching, right? And put those 3 to 5 goals down, and then make them you got to make them a priority. You got to make a priority every day. You got to make them a priority every week, right? And then you got to think about, like, during your 52 hours or whatever that you have free, maybe do a time log, like she talked about. Write down, like, what are you spending your time on? And something you got to evaluate, especially even if you sit down to work your business, right? You have to prioritize the tasks that you're working, right? If you're spending all of your time, you know, and just take Tom as an example. If Tom is, you know, spending all of his time creating these, you know, hilarious TikTok videos, but is that is that producing the results that he wants, right? If it is, great. But if it's not, like, what is the most important thing that you could be doing with your time to enhance your business? For me, it's talking to people, right? It's either messaging them or, you know, speaking to them one-on-one or whatever, right? It's me, you know, personally talking to people, right? That's how I get people into my group. That's how I get people to sign up as coaches. It's me, you know, because I'm an introvert, and it's me, like, forcing myself, literally, I have to force myself to step out of my comfort zone to talk to people, right? To message them, because trust me, that is not something that I want to do. There's so many things that I would rather do. That monkey, would trying to tempt me to do other things. But if I want to move my business forward, I know I have to message so many people, right? Or I know if I want to get people signed up as coaches, I know I have to get them on the phone, and it's not something that I want to do, but I know that is the number one thing that I have to do that moves my business forward. So you have to determine what is the number one thing that you have to do that will achieve your goals, right? And it doesn't matter if it's personal, professional, whatever, right? You got to prioritize what is the number one thing. And then, Brian Tracy, you guys, he has that book. What is the name of his book? It's on time management. Eat That Frog or whatever, right? So he talks about tackle the hardest one first, right? It's like, if you have a to-do list, and I heard another speaker say to-do lists are not effective. Like, don't create to-do lists, right? Because to-do lists is where you put things that they go to die. But anyway, Brian Tracy's like, if you got a to-do list, tackle the hardest thing first, prioritize, and like whatever you're, I guess it kind of goes together. It's like, what moves your business, like what would move your business the most, or what would achieve your goal the most. And even though it's hard and you don't want to do it, that's what you got to do, right? That's what you got to do first.
Can I jump in on this?
Yeah.
Speaking of priority. So when I was at my last job, sorry, I got cat hair all over my face. When I was at my last job, they had us take a time management class. And there was one thing that I learned from that changed everything in my career. And I started to do it in my personal life when the pandemic first started, and I started freelancing, and I was sewing and selling masks. And then, at the time I was, trying to make time to work the business. And what it is you create quadrants. So you make 4 quadrants, and it's urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, because it could be somebody else's to do. Like, it could be something that's asked of you that is important, that's urgent for them but not important to you. And the last thing is not important and not urgent. Unfortunately, they said that personal development usually falls into that 4th quadrant of not important and not urgent, because there's no deadline, because it's everything else kind of takes priority. But the quadrant, and I can get the information and send it to everybody in the messenger, but the quadrant thing really helped me prioritize and put everything in buckets. So instead of a to-do list, which I do love to-do lists because I'm very OCD, so I like to every day check something off, and I always tackle the hardest thing first, the thing I would procrastinate the most on, or the thing with the hardest deadline. But the quadrants really help put everything into perspective. So maybe we can have everybody do like a task. I'll send the information, and then maybe next week we can talk about what our quadrants were for the week for the business.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I agree. Personal development is something that I think a lot of people like push to the bottom, right? Not important or whatever. And it really needs to be, right? Especially if you need, like, if you have a goal, right? Like, one of my, I guess, personal goals, and I've talked about this with you guys, is to become a better stock trader, right? It's like, I want to make millions, right? And obviously I see that as a way of doing that, right? And so in order to do that, I have to invest in personal development to learn how to do it, right? So I have to spend time, and I have to prioritize that. Of course, along with my personal goal, my other, relationship goals, and my business of my Beachbody business, everything has to get prioritized, and my text P2P business, right? So, but like I was telling Tom, it's like, yeah, that's something I spend an hour a day on, like, learning, right? Because I it's a priority and I need to get better. And if I'm going to make $1 million in the stock market, I've got to get better at it, right? And it's something that I got to do every day, right? So that is personal development for me, right? And it, it's like whatever you want to get better at. It doesn't have to be Grant Cardone, right? It could be whatever you need to get better at or want to get better at, and you have a goal of that. That's what you got to be spending your personal development time on. And it needs to be as critical as the goal itself, right? So, so something to think about. One guy said, I mean, Sherry, I'm like you. I love to-do lists, right? It's just my OCD as well. But he said, don't do to-do list. He said, all professional people do calendars and work by your calendar, right? So allocate time, right? For what you want to do and go by your calendar. And so maybe you have, your personal time, right? You got allocation for that. And I do, right? It's like in the evenings, I allocate time to spend with my wife, and that's when we do watch TV because that's what she likes to do, right? And that's what I like to do too, right? So we do, relax and watch TV in the evenings. But I also have blocks of time on my calendar for meeting with people, or working my coaching business, or working my my text business or whatever. So anyway, if you're not using a calendar, try that, try allocating blocks of time, and then make sure that you're not getting distracted during those times, right? People talk about that all the time. It's like, maybe they allocate family time. And I know girl Beachbody coaches suffer with this, or they talk about it a lot, right? Of like, they've allocated the family time to spend with their husband or their kids or whatever. And then, but then, they're on their phone, right? And they're, replying to people who are messaging them because they think that's more important, right? Somebody wants a challenge pack, so I gotta, message them right now, right? But if that is your allocation time for your family, well, then you just need to put your phone away, right? And same goes if it's time to work your business, you got to turn off all the other distractions. Maybe say to your husband or your spouse or whatever, hey, you need to watch the kids for an hour because I'm going to go work my business for an hour or whatever, right? And put things in priority. So what else do you guys, what else do you have takeaways or other time management books or stuff that you've learned?
I kind of like the to-do list too, but I do get the point where, sometimes it's just a list that gets going on and on. But I really got into it originally with Franklin Covey, the system. It's where you create the list and you A priority, B priority, C priority. I mean, it did work for me, and I had a computer app that went with it, and I loved it. And they just don't make it anymore. So, but it was working for me. But I have reverted more to the calendar, as it is just what kind of stumps me with that is, I plan out my day on the calendar. It usually just like I'll still hit the things I want to hit, but it really never happens at the times I plan it, because especially during the day when I'm at work, I plan I'm gonna say, okay, I'll take a break around lunchtime and do this, and then something happens and there's not even a lunch break. But
right, but Tom, by doing that, by the way you work, if you don't plan, then what happens is when things come up, it throws everything off. Instead, you can just shift. So, if you just kind of go willy-nilly, that would be a distraction and get you away from the thing that you were hoping to do, and then you won't remember to go back to it. But by having that list like that, like I used to schedule myself times, like, okay, from this hour to this hour, I'm working on this. From this hour to this hour, and I'd always leave a half an hour in between in case something came up. And then if something came up and it overran, then I made that the priority for the next day. So that way I could make sure to get it finished. But stuff happens. But at least if you're planning, if something comes up, it doesn't completely throw you off schedule.
Yeah,
I only use to-do lists as tasks.
Yeah.
So it's like if from 9 to 12, if I'm working on
really what I do is every morning, I mean, I have my list and I try to while I have my coffee, jump on the computer and before I start reading emails and stuff, I just, go through my list for the day and whatever has got to be followed through. So I do like the list, but then I try to transcribe that into a calendar, but I still wind up going back to the list at the end of the day saying, nope, yep, nope.
Well, think of the calendar as your overarching, like your goal, and then the list could be the tasks to achieve that goal. So when I was at my old company and when we did our yearly reviews, we would write our goal like a title, and then we would have to break down the tasks in order to get to that goal and break it down in percentages. So you have 100% of goals. Say there's 5 goals. You weigh them out all separately. So, it's not all 20% each. So you weigh them out to equal 100%. And then with each one, you write down high level tasks to get to that goal. And that has to make 100% of that goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's how, and we were analyzed, our bonus at the end of the year was based on success within goals of goals. And it was very effective for, 17,000 employees. So, and it kept the company always moving forward and advancing. So that's another way to look at lists, is not necessarily to-do lists, but goals. And then how you're going to achieve a piece of that goal every day.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you achieved your floor goal there, Tom, right? It was just like 3 days later, whatever, right?
No, but I always knew that was going to be. But yeah, no, I mean, I hit them. It's never exactly the way, what times I plan. So, I mean, I always I think I really do a good job with time management and considering my circumstances, because I'll always manage to get everything I need to get done in the course of the day. I mean, but sometimes it may be like, I'm down here in my basement at 10 o'clock at night working out, but it was just, it was supposed to happen 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning, there was a fire in the hotel. Priorities. And then, but I still made a point to get it done. Now, if that would have been 6 weeks of work, it wasn't going to happen at 10 o'clock at night. Yoga. So, but,
I have heard before one person talk about, I mean, obviously, if you have a leak or something, right, you got to take care of it immediately. But a lot of us, the first thing that we do is we sit down in the morning and we open up our email. I know I do this, right? And then we let other people's priority dictate our day, right? Instead of you dictating your day. And that happens all the time, right? So now you're letting their priorities override your priorities, right? So what you need to do is, like you said, Tom, like look at your to-do list, right? Start working on your to-do list or whatever is most important. And then open up, like you schedule a time to open up your email, right? Maybe at lunchtime or whatever. And that way it gives you all morning to work on your priorities. So I know that doesn't always work, especially like if your boss is like, emailing you and expecting you to read it first thing in the morning and get things done or whatever. But yeah, maybe you could like scan for his emails or whatever, right? If there aren't any.
That's why also I get an early start every morning, because I'm up and there's usually everybody else is still sleeping, so there's nothing going on. If I'm caught up from the day before, the night before, which I usually am, that time, and I get more done. I get so much squeezed in that window before everybody shows up for work. It's amazing. Once they come, I mean, I know now that the hotel's reopening, it's going to be back to that. But I know once they roll in 9 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, I got my crew set, my workout done. I get so much done before that, and then you're putting out fires all day long, and then certain time of the evening, back to getting shit done.
Yeah. Christine, did you have something?
I made the mistake last night of checking my school email before bed. So I didn't respond to anybody, but first thing this morning, I was sitting there responding to parents and putting their priorities first.
I do that a lot, and it's really hard for me. It's like, because I always got my phone, like if I'm watching TV or whatever, I got my phone there, right? And if I get a customer, like for my texting business, and they message me or they mail me, right? I'm working on not taking care of it right then, right? Because that is not, setting boundaries, right? That is not the time that I should be working that business. So I'm getting better at, okay, I'm just going to get to that in the morning. It doesn't need to be done right now, or get to that in my time slot or whatever, and that's what I've been getting better at, but yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah,
hard to,
typically I would respond to them at night and I have to stop doing that. So
right, exactly. And then because they come to expect it of you, right? They'll be, oh, she always responds at night why is she not responding? Right?
Yeah, always set expectations and set them early, because once people are in the habit of that, then it's very hard to break it.
Definitely. All right. Any other closing comments? Anybody else? Well, Sherry, definitely send us the quadrant.
I will.
Let's do that, and like she said, everybody, create your 3 to 5 goals in personal relationships and professional, and prioritize those, and, see how you're spending your time. Is it advancing those goals of what your priorities are? And if not, you got to evaluate why you're spending your time on those, right? So, all right, guys, have a great week. Oh, we have Super Saturday later this afternoon, right?
12 o'clock, I think.
12?
Yeah, 12 noon Eastern.
Yeah.
How does that work, by the way, virtually?
There's just a link that you click on, and, I know Melissa Hudgens are having a watch party, so I gave you the Zoom that you could watch them, or you could just click the link and watch it yourself.
Okay.
So I'll tune in. All right. See you guys.